Well, hello all, Game Methuselah again. Wanted to do a little bit of the priming prep work, do some gap fill. If you guys have not seen this in the last video, which I showed you, make sure you try to maybe find this acrylic resin plastic putty. The reason why I really like it is that it comes off with just water. So the real tools you need in doing this initially are the figure, the product, and a wet paper towel. Finger works good too. Now, I have to apologize ahead of time because of the limited field of view. Some people said I should move the camera back and do a bunch of stuff. The problem is twofold. One, if I move the camera back, you're not going to see anything. I mean, if I pull it back out here, eventually your vision is going to be a point where you're not going to really see what's going on. The second thing is because of my limited field of vision and wanting to be able to see this, I'm kind of semi-looking through the camera. I kind of look away when I get getting closer to work on the detail, but for the most part, I'm trying to keep it here so you see it. And up close is really the only way you're going to see sort of this prep work happening. So bear with me if you can. I imagine when Matt gets the studio fully functioning, we'll get some of his pros to show me how to do this without sort of the limited field of view. But at this point, this is what I know, and this is the technology I have, so I'll have to work with it as we can today, and hopefully it'll be enough for you guys to get some prep ideas to what to do. Anyway, easy deal. You just squeeze the tube here and get a little of this stuff to go into where the gap is. You can put it on with your finger to fill out into the areas. And then you take your little wet paper towel, and it cleans off all the higher surfaces. Now, you can dig in there a little bit more if it sort of gets into the scales and things in places you don't want it. But again, it's a little hard for me because, of course, I'm trying to show you at the same time, so I have to kind of look away and whatever. But normally it'd be a little faster. But again, like I said, I'm trying to make sure I keep it in the field of vision for you so you can sort of see what's going on. Now, again, there's not a whole lot of effort done here. I mean, the material is doing the work for you. Again, you just push in and then, try to, and then wipe it away where you don't want it. And you can also get a brush, a little thing, you can even use a little toothpick if it seems like you're getting it down in grooves that you don't want. To be very frank, I don't think you're going to notice most of that, but I'd still likely clean it out anyway. You can use whatever you have. I'm using a little pin of a file here, but it doesn't matter. Now, I'm not going to waste all your time and have you watch the whole thing here, but as you can see, what's happening now is I'm just filling the basic gaps that are here that I don't want to actually see in the finished product. And it'll work out pretty good when I'm when I'm done. Now, the great thing about this over squadron putting, if you've used any of the green putties or the white putties, is it's a lot thinner, so it goes on pretty smooth. The other thing is because you can immediately modify it with water, which you can't do with the other putties because they're all, acetone type based. You're going to need some kind of a thinner or just sand it off. This works super easy, and you don't have a whole lot of problems. You're not going to end up having something that mars the plastic because the acrylic is pretty easy on the item. But again, what you can see here is where that I thought was maybe the major gap is now basically filled. So when this primes, I'll be able to be for sure. If I miss it again, I can always come back and add a little bit more on. But the idea is just that. It's not hard if you get used to it, and if you use this, you're going to like it a lot more than the obviously the different putties that are thicker and harder to do. There's other ways to do it, but I actually think this stuff works pretty darn good, especially with plastic miniatures. And I've only recently discovered this, and because of the fact that I was using a lot with plastics, and it really, really does great. So give it a look, see. In the meantime, like I said, we'll just go keep puttying all this. When I get finished, I'll come back here and just show you the final look through it. So give me a few minutes, and I'll be right back. All right, all. I've been at this about 10 minutes more to fill all the gaps that I could see. Now, something when you were running over, and I think I mentioned that sometimes you're going to get this in places you don't necessarily want. The beautiful part, because it's a water-based acrylic material, is that you can basically go in with a paintbrush like this and just brush it off. So if it gets on something you don't want, you do it here. If it gets into a little more area than you want, you can wipe it down. And what it'll do is it'll take the material off. Now, very much like the wet paper towel does, this is a little more aggressive. So you don't necessarily want to do it initially. You want to wait to see that it's not in places that you are not going to want it to be before you remove it. But as you can see, and I'll try to keep it in frame with the camera here, you can really see here that there was not a whole lot of gap work. A little bit here back at the tail, piece underneath in the front, and the back. This is where the shoulder and wing part came on. It's pretty small. It actually looks bigger than it is. It's, I think, a difference because we have a slight raise between the two pieces. I don't know if I'm going to do any sanding on that. I doubt it because I don't think it's going to be necessary, and more than likely I would do more damage to the figure than not. And looking through the camera now, I think I missed a little piece right here. So I'm going to go back and do that now. And again, that was what I was talking about. When you get the primer on it before you start the painting, there's always going to be a position where you're going to really look over the figure to make sure it's done all the way you want it. Now, this is where the brush gets really helpful too, again, because it's going to get in an area, it's going to be a little harder to get it all cleaned out, and I've got it into some of the grooves down here that I didn't want. So again, you just get the brush, and the brush will take it right out. But looking over the figure here, the top part of the seam is right here. You can see virtually nothing. I mean, none of the white even clicked in, so there's almost no seam. Very, very minor here. Really like that. This was where I thought the largest, and most visual gap is, of course, because that's the way the dragon's facing as well. So this is going to be was a real important seam to remove. And that was, like I said, because the material does so much work for you. Again, it makes it really, really easy. Going around the front, it's all filled in. It's clear and ready to go. I'm really happy with the way this comes out. I mean, I've seldom worked with miniatures really that are this easy, especially with big ones. Sometimes you've had to do some major gap filling when you're dealing with large figures. But that's when the situation was done in metal. And now these new plastics and the new materials they're using. Some people on Twitter and even on the YouTube here kind of said that I might have had a problem using my melting material, that Tamiya figure type item that was similar to the old micro weld I used to use, because this new plastic is resistant to that. So that could indeed be the case. I don't really know. I'll look into it a little bit more and come up with it. But in the meantime, I think you've got the basic ideas. This is not really difficult. Nothing to be nervous about. What we'll start doing now on this is I'll start cleaning up, places where I'm going to have little bits of material showing. I would use some fine grit sandpaper, and I likely will do that where there might be a major issue, but I have not seen any really major issues here. A little bit of flash at the wings that you can move off. That'll, again, the sandpaper would be helpful. I'm sure I'll find other things. I might be much more picky than a lot of other people too. That's just the fact that I've been doing this a long time. So, not really sure if I find anything between now and when I do the next video on the prep up with the primer. I'll let you know. But in the meantime, I think we're pretty ready to go here. So I'll stop now, and I'll just do the last little bit of cleanup on it. And again, we should be onto the painting soon. So have a good one. So until we speak again, fight me devils fight, for I hate peace, and paint on.